Because of the appearance of Jason and others, Elder Salskjaer, who was just quietly skimming the formation from the side, turned against the enemy and took the lead. In fact, although Jason is a genius, Jason's status and strength are not enough to make Elder Salskjaer so excited. And now, the reason why Elder Salskjaer takes the lead regardless of everything is it's because of Jason's special reputation. At the time of the mainland genius trial, Jason was ranked first on the hunting list given to the Atkinson Tower Master of the Spiritual Master Tower, the Deputy Tower Master of Jara and others. Even though Salskjaer of the Kamikaze Empire, the Elder, did not go to the trial that day, but he knew about this matter quite clearly. Now, Jason, who was originally listed as the #1 target to be killed by the 4 major forces, is not dead, and has also appeared in the territory of the Kamikaze Empire. As the Elder of the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire, Salskjaer naturally wants to use thunder to strike defeat and capture Jason to demonstrate the majesty of his Kamikaze Empire. With such a great achievement, Salskjaer naturally does not want to let it fall into the hands of others. Seeing Elder Salskjaer in such a hurry, he took action. On the side, Elder Radamandes didn't have any displeasure on his face. He just watched quietly, and at the same time, he wanted Salskjaer to take action. Elder Yit took the lead to see what kind of medicine Jason and others were selling in the gourd. He had the courage to come to the Kamikaze Empire to save Renault. In the sky, endless flames were burning, and the entire sky became a world of flames. In the terrifying flames, Elder Salskjaer rushed towards him like a falling comet, with cold eyes and a fiery red sword in his hand. Suddenly it flew up, creating red ripples. The long sword containing terrifying spiritual power cut through the void, and the void was torn apart like paper. Elder Salskjaer's eyes seemed to have 2 scorching suns spinning, and he aimed at Jason's location and struck directly with his sword. Come. Whoops. The bright brilliance tore the world apart, and the holy level pressure surged in overwhelmingly. In all the spaces around Jason's body, endless fire elements crushed him. At this moment, everything in the world was lost. The light was gone, leaving only the sky full of red light, annihilating everything. During the crazy attack on Jason, Salskjaer's eyes were not fixed on Jason, but on Lanyu Gusen and others behind Jason. Among them, the one who paid the most attention was placed on Wayne, who stood there proudly. As geniuses of major forces, Jason and the others are only geniuses after all, not strong men, but the combat effectiveness shown by Wayne previously made Salskjaer quite afraid. Not only Salskjaer, but also Radamandes and many family patriarchs below, most of them are also focusing on Wayne. In their view, this Jason is absolutely irresistible. If Elder Salskjaer's attack is blocked, it is very likely that Wayne will take action. However, a scene that puzzled everyone happened. Looking at the battle that was about to take place in front of them, Wayne, Lanyu and others were floating quietly in the distance behind Jason, with no intention of coming to help. Just let the Elder Salskjaer attack Jason. Elder Salskjaer, right? You dare to be distracted when you attack me? You simply don't know how to write the word death. In the sky, Jason said indifferently. There was a divine light blooming in his eyes, and the spiritual magic in his body was it rotates quickly, and at the same time the 4 spirit beads in his mind rotate like lightning. 5 elements barrier. Water space. Buzz. A multicolored light, a blue light, suddenly bloomed from Jason's body, and the endless 5-color divine light spread out continuously. In Jason's body under control, a circular spiritual space was formed, covering Jason. At the same time, a blue ripple of nothingness also filled everything around him, shrouding Elder Salskjaer in it. The overwhelming water spiritual power instantly wrapped around Elder Salskjaer. What? In an instant, Elder Salskjaer felt as if he had fallen into a muddy swamp. Everything around him was wrapped, and powerful binding forces were pressing on him from all directions. At the same time, there was even an extremely cold breath that entered his body through the spiritual power of the water system. The extremely cold chill actually made him, a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, shiver involuntarily. Humph. Salskjær snorted coldly. He was shocked in his heart. The 9th-level holy spiritual power in his body was released crazily, and waves of flames rippled across the surface of his body. Holy fire technique, holy fire, destroys the world. Elder Salskjær roared, and the sword in his hand fell directly. But at this moment, Jason, who had been standing quietly in the void, suddenly moved. A set of jet-black armor suddenly appeared on his body, and the black heavy sword in his hand rose into the sky with flames, forming a giant flaming sword more than 10 feet long, and a huge flaming bird. The shadow floated up behind Jason, exuding astonishing holy-level pressure. God-destroying killing technique. Third wave of phoenix flames. The 5 elements are born and destroyed, destroying the heaven and the earth. The secret of the fire element, the ruthless flame. In Jason's roar, the flaming giant sword in his hand, the sword in Elder Salskjær's hand, collided like lightning. Boom! It was like 2 nuclear bombs colliding with each other. The deafening roar resounded in the sky, and the endless flames annihilated everything. In everyone's shocked eyes, the flaming giant sword in Jason's hand cut through thorns and thorns, invincible. Wherever it went, the space collapsed, and the void continued to collapse, destroying all tangible and intangible existences. The emanating light in Elder Salskjær's hand, the long sword with astonishing pressure, was almost thrown away by the blow, and an irresistible terrifying spiritual power rushed into his body instantly. Bang! Under the horrified gaze of Elder Salskjær, this terrifying power instantly shattered the spiritual armor on his body. The fiery red robe on his body shattered instantly, and he spit out a heavy mouthful. The blood flew out heavily like a cannonball from the barrel. The bright red blood was floating in the air. Elder Salskjær's body retreated 10 feet in the void. His face was pale and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. He was in a very embarrassed state, and his eyes were full of horror. Looking at Jason proudly in the sky not far away. For a moment, the entire city of Kike was silent. Everyone looked at this scene and could hardly believe their eyes. How can you be so strong? No, it's impossible. You are obviously an 8th-level Imperial Spiritual Master, but how? After a while, Elder Salskjær came back to his senses and murmured in his mouth. He made a sound, his eyes were full of disbelief, and his mind was hit hard. As a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, he originally wanted to defeat Jason with a thunderous blow and show the pressure of the Kamikaze Empire in front of everyone. However, in the end, he, the Holy Land Elder of the Kamikaze Empire, was defeated instead. The opponent was knocked back with 1 blow and suffered heavy injuries, which made him so excited that he almost lost his position. What shocked Elder Salskjær even more was that he, who had fought against Jason before, could clearly feel that although Jason was powerful now, he was only an 8th-level Emperor Spiritualist and had not yet entered the 9th level. The realm of the Holy Spirit Master. In Stern Continent, Dominique, the core disciple of the Spiritual Master Tower, who is known as the continent's #1 genius, only claims to be able to fight against 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Masters with his 8th-level peak strength, and now he is also an 8th-level Imperial Spiritual Master. Jason, however, defeated the vigorous blow of a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master in 1 move. The difference between them was so huge that it was impossible to reason. Radamandes, Salskjær, today, none of you can escape. Jason stood proudly and said coldly. Elder Radamandes. On the opposite side, Salskjær hurriedly retreated to Elder Radamandes's side, his whole body in a state of embarrassment, and his eyes were filled with horror. Jason, I really didn't expect that you would become so strong after not seeing each other for several months. Radamandes spoke with a sparkle in his eyes, but there was no trace of panic on his face. Honestly, even I have to admire you. You are indeed a genius that surpasses our spiritual master Tower Dominic. No wonder the master of Atkinson Tower attaches so much importance to you. But it's a pity that this is the Kamikaze Empire. Because you are the only one and that Wayne, can you stop Salskjaer and me? Escape from here? It's ridiculous. Today, I want you to die here one by one. Elder Radamandes' eyes were full of coldness. Yes, this is the Kamikaze Empire. You are geniuses, but if you think that just a few of you can escape from here, you are totally wrong. At this time, Elder Salskjaer's expression also recovered. After regaining his composure, he instantly looked down at the mansion of the Dekray family. There, because of Lifonza's invitation, almost half of the powerful families in the Kamikaze Empire gathered. Although there were no 9th-level Holy Spirit Masters among them, there were countless 8th-level Imperial Spiritual Masters. Among them, the 8th-level High-level Imperial Spiritual Masters, there are more than 10 people, and there are even several Emperor Spiritual Masters at the peak of the 8th level. This is a strength that cannot be ignored. Everyone, listen to me. Capture Jason and others immediately. If you resist, I will kill them without mercy. No matter who it is, as long as you kill anyone on the other side, the best among the next 3 generations of descendants will be unconditionally enter the core of our Kamikaze Empire's Holy Land for further study, and at the same time, this family will also receive the blessing of the Empire's Holy Land. Elder Salskjaer's rumbling voice suddenly resounded over the entire Kike city. Wow! As his words fell, everyone in the Dacre family's mansion below, from all major families, went crazy. A terrifying aura rose into the sky from the mansion below, and the many eyes full of murderous intent stared nakedly at the other 6 people except Wayne and Jason, full of excitement. In the Dekray family's courtyard and mansion, the patriarchs, elders, and members of the major families who originally looked up at the battle in the sky became excited after hearing Elder Salskjaer's words. Among the 4 empires, the Holy Land is the supreme existence of the empire. The disciples who can enter the Holy Land are all the best in the empire and enjoy the respect of thousands of people. In the Holy Land, there are a large number of cultivation treasures, peerless skills, and powerful mentors that ordinary families do not have. For major families, the ability of family children to enter the Holy Land of the Empire is not simply due to recognition and a good environment. It is even more because in the Holy Land, every disciple is a genius in the Empire, an extraordinary existence. A very small number of these geniuses come from some ordinary families, or even civilian families, while most of the rest are almost from the major families in the Empire are powerful candidates for the future heads of the major families. Each of these disciples has a bright future, and each of them is a potential stock. If your disciples join them, they will not only get excellent training, but also be able to make friends with the actual leaders of the major forces in the Empire in the future. This will have a great impact on the family. It will be of great benefit to future development. This can be seen from the experience of the Decker family. When Patriarch Haig became the core disciple of the Spiritual Master Tower, the Decker family was in the limelight of the Kamikaze Empire for a while. With the fall of Patriarch Haig, the Dekray family immediately declined, and now Lavanzi has become the core disciple of the Spiritual Master Tower. The Dekray family, which originally declined and became a second-rate family, has risen again and become the top force in the empire. 1. The rise and fall of the Decker family were all due to the fact that Patriarch Haig and Patriarch Livens became the core disciples of the Spiritual Master Tower, disciples of Elder Radamandes. Everything is that simple. Although the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire cannot be compared with the top Spiritual Master Tower in the mainland, it is essentially the same. Moreover, as the Holy Land is the actual ruler of the Kamikaze Empire, the children of the family join the Holy Land of the Empire. In terms of help to the family, it is even more helpful than joining the Spirit Master Tower. Therefore, for the major families in the 4 major empires, almost every family is proud that their children can enter the Empire's Holy Land to practice. However, as an Imperial Holy Land, the requirements for recruiting disciples are extremely strict and require detailed review and testing. No matter how powerful the family is, if the family members are not up to par, it will be difficult to enter the Holy Land through the back door. Therefore, after hearing what Elder Salskjær said, the heads of the major families present were filled with excitement, their blood boiled, and boundless murderous intent rose from almost everyone's bodies, soaring straight into the sky. In the eyes of these people, they have two ninth-level Holy Spirit Masters, Elder Radamandes and Elder Salskjær, on their side. Although the opponent Wayne is also a ninth-level Holy Spirit Master, Jason is also extremely powerful, but still cannot compare with Elder Radamandes. Although the remaining Lan Yugusin and others are peerless geniuses from various major forces, there are only 6 of them after all. Perhaps one-on-one, people like myself are no match for Lan Yugusin, but now, there are hundreds of 8th-level Imperial spiritual masters on our side. Each of them is the patriarch and elder of the major forces in the Empire. They have become famous in the Empire. A long-standing figure, if a large group of people like me join forces, are we still afraid of a few geniuses? Whoosh! 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 For a moment, as Elder Salskjær's words fell, more than a dozen strong men who were excited and tempted by the interests couldn't wait to rise into the sky and surrounded Lan Lan. Sukakozen et al. Kill these guys. How dare you come to our kamikaze empire to act wild? I don't even know how to write the word death. Let me meet the so-called top geniuses of the major forces in the mainland and see how they are. A genius method. Haha, kill. In the endless void, various spiritual power currents surged. In the mansion below, among the hundreds of powerful guests, more than a dozen people roared with excitement, and rushed towards he found the location of Lan Yugusin and others. On the other side of the void. Elder Radamandes, I'll stop Wayne, you deal with Jason. Seeing this scene, Elder Salskjær couldn't help but reveal a proud smile in his eyes, and immediately faced Radamandes. With a sound, the whole person was already flying towards Wayne's location. In the previous confrontation with Jason, Elder Salskjær had already been frightened by Jason's powerful strength and turned his target to Wayne. Okay. Radamandes said nothing nonsense, his eyes full of evil smiles and murderous intent were already aimed at Jason. Endless murderous intent shook the void. Radamandes and Salskjær faced Jason and Wayne respectively, but they did not take action immediately. Their intention was to contain Jason and Wayne first. People, let the patriarchs of the major families kill Lan Yugusin and the others first, and then take care of Jason and Wayne. In the sky, looking at the attacks of the first batch of more than a dozen powerful Emperor spiritualists below, Jason and Wayne also faced Radamandes and Salskjær respectively, but there was no trace of them. The idea of making a move. Huh? Seeing the extremely calm expressions of Jason and Wayne, Radamandes couldn't help but frown. For some reason, there was an unpleasant feeling rising in his heart at this moment. Rise. Boom. In this short moment, the dozen or so strong men who rushed the most urgently had already arrived in front of Lan Yugusin and others. Each of them was shining with various spiritual powers, and they were holding out weapons in their hands. Weapons, various long swords, battle knives, giant hammers, battle axes, spiritual whips containing terrifying spiritual power, blasted towards Lan Yugusin and others. Among these more than a dozen strong men, those who rushed to the front were Patriarch Brachi of the Kamikaze Empire's Mega family and Patriarch Romi of the Kaka family. Both of them were 8th-level Imperial spiritual masters at the peak. Wielding a flaming sword and a black sword in his hands, they roared and slashed at Edmets and Cassinus with terrifying power. Behind the two of them, several 8th-level senior Emperor Spirit Masters rushed towards Lan Yugusin, Caswall, Monica, and Renault respectively. The terrifying power tore through the void easily, and the overwhelming spiritual power was like an aurora, forming brilliant tides in the sky, surging towards everyone like a torrent. Everyone, be careful. Renault, who had just been rescued and didn't know the strength of Lan Yugusin and others, said nervously. Uncle Renault, don't worry. You have just recovered from a serious injury. Just retreat and let us see. On the side, Cassinus laughed loudly and said, "Everyone, let's compete to see who can deal with those guys first, who is the fastest." Cassinus's rumbling and heroic laughter rumbled in the sky of Kike City, and the next moment, he took action brazenly. Boom! He looked indifferently at Brachi, the patriarch of the Mega family, who was rushing towards him. The long sword in his hand was flowing with black and white light, and he aimed it at him and slashed it down. An astonishing sword light connected the sky and the earth, splitting the sky, aiming at Brachi and striking hard. The terrifying aura dispersed, and the entire void trembled and shattered under this terrifying pressure. In the eyes of everyone, the long sword in Cassinus's hand just slashed directly on the long sword in the hand of the leader of the Brachi clan who attacked first. The space disappeared silently, and a huge space crack appeared in the void, revealing the dark space. The endless space power around it quickly made up for it, and disappeared in an instant. Chief Brachi felt an irresistible terrifying force and slammed into the sword in his hand. Kakaka crack suddenly appeared on the long sword in the hand of the Brachi clan leader. The red fire spiritual power in the sky collapsed instantly, and an irresistible terrifying force was instantly transmitted into the cloth. The body of Chief Riki. Chief Brachi's eyes suddenly widened, and parts of his body were instantly split open, with blood splattering out. No, the screams resounded in the sky, and the next moment pung. Silently, the head of the Brachi clan, who was an 8th-level peak imperial spiritual master, was instantly shaken to pieces. Exist again. Brachi. When the Romi clan leader of the Kaka family, who rushed to the front with Brachi, saw this scene, his eyes were full of horror, and he roared in shock. He never thought that Brachi, who was as famous as himself, would be killed instantly by the other party. For a moment, an uncontrollable fear spread into his heart, and the sword in his hand was slashed involuntarily. Trembling. However, at this moment, Edmund's opposite him also took action. A golden sword rainbow lit up brilliantly in the void, like a groundbreaking strike, filling Luo Ami's sight, and landed directly on the sword in his hand. Bang! Under the horrified gaze of the Luo Ami clan leader, the sword in his hand shattered instantly, and a brilliant golden aurora cut through his body in an instant. The body of the Romi clan leader was directly cut in half under Edma's sword. Blood was thrown into the sky. In the cut body, various organs and internal organs were scattered like rain, powerless. His body also fell heavily into the sky. At the same time, Lan Yugusan and others also took action one after another. Several waves of indescribable terrifying holy power were released crazily in their bodies, and they met the strongest men at the front. Terrifying spiritual power penetrated the sky. Under the attack of Lan Yugusan and others, how could the patriarchs and elders of the major families in the Kamikaze Empire, who were 8th-level Emperor spiritual masters, resist? The screams filled the sky. With the sound of the sound, 7 or 8 people died in just one encounter. Some of them were directly blown into powder, and some of the corpses were sprinkled with blood from the sky. For a moment, the sky seemed to have turned into a blood-colored ocean, and the rich smell of blood filled the air. Seeing this scene, the Imperial Spirit Masters who were constantly flying up from behind and wanted to attack Cassinus and the others were all stunned and stopped in the void. Shape, looking at Cassinus and others standing proudly in front of them in horror. The terrifying holy level pressure released from Cassinus and the others filled their hearts with fear, and boundless fear floated from their eyes. The reason why they came up regardless of their own safety was because they believed that although Cassinus and others were geniuses, they were only 8th-level Imperial spiritual masters. Even if they were powerful, they would not be their combined opponents. But now that they saw Cassinus and others, after seeing the strength of Sinus and others, everything about joining the Holy Land and all the glory and wealth were all forgotten by them at this moment. In the face of life and death, everything is a cloud, only living is real. Run away. Holy Spirit Masters, they are all 9th-level Holy Spirit Masters. With our strength, we are no match for them. We are risking death. Whoosh. 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 In one encounter, 7 or 8 strong men with similar strength to himself fell. Among them were Brachi and Luo Ami, 2 8th-level imperial spiritual masters who were invited by Livens to attend the banquet. The heads of the major forces in the empire all had expressions full of fear at this moment. The astonishing methods and strength shown by Cassinus and others made them no longer have the courage to step forward. Escape. They have only one choice. The patriarchs and elders of the major families who flew behind and did not immediately confront Cassinus and others immediately stopped in the void and ran away with fear in their eyes. Want to escape? Now that you are here, just stay here obediently. In the sky, Cassinus, Caswall, and Edmes all had sneers on their lips, and at the same time 3 terrifying forces, suddenly released from the bodies of the 3 people. 2 rays of light, one yin and one yang, rose from Cassinus's body. Half of his body emitted a deep black light, and the other half emitted a dazzling white light. 2 rays of light, one black and one white, appeared on his body. They merged in front of them and turned into a huge millstone, which kept spinning, forming a huge vortex. The terrifying coercion dissipated. There were black and white lights flowing in Cassinus's eyes. His left hand was like a millstone, aimed at the middle of the 30 people who had previously flown into the sky but were now running away. More than 10 people pushed him away. Boom! An astonishingly terrifying suction force appeared in this area. The dozen or so imperial spirit masters who were about to fly around were instantly locked in the void, struggling like ants. At the same time, Cassinus' right hand came down hard. No! Everyone shouted in horror. Boom! A huge roar sounded, and in the void, half of the more than 10 powerful imperial spiritual masters were directly blasted into nothingness by Cassinus's blow, and the remaining few people's internal organs were shattered, their bodies were splattered with blood, their flesh and blood were blurred, and they had lost their vitality. Only one of them, an 8th-level peak person and an 8th-level advanced expert, were dripping with blood, but they were still breathing. Not killed by Cassinus in one blow. Cassinus waved his right hand again, killing the 2 of them without mercy. On the side, Caswall and Edmes also took action brazenly. Of the 2 of them, Caswall fiercely slashed out the long sword in his hand at the dozen or so flying strong men on the left. And Edmes, his whole body bloomed with golden light, and dozens of golden sword rainbows containing terrifying spiritual power launched a fierce attack on the more than 10 strong men who flew to the right and ran away. There was blue light flowing in Caswall's eyes, and the long sword in his hand fell directly into the middle of more than a dozen strong men running away on the left. Boom! The long sword struck the void, and with a whoosh sound, a huge black hole in space clearly appeared in front of everyone, in which violent space turbulence loomed. 2 terrifying ice powers spread out one after another with the black hole in space as the center. Crack! Crack! The terrifying shock wave spread, and the void shattered like a mirror. The blue ice spiritual power in front quickly spread to the more than 10 fleeing strong men. By Kaka, under this terrifying ice spiritual power, the figures of the more than 10 fleeing emperor spiritual masters suddenly stagnated, and on their bodies, paths quickly spread. The thick ice layer, and soon, a second shockwave also filled their bodies. Pung! Crack! The ice exploded, and the sound of breaking sounded one after another in the void. Among the more than 10 strong men who were frozen, half of them shattered into powder directly with the ice, and some were slightly stronger. The stronger ones had their bodies cracking as the ice cracked, with blood spraying all over them, and they fell from the sky, dripping with blood. On the side, more than a dozen golden sword rainbows released by Edmes also slashed at more than a dozen strong men who were fleeing on the right. Pung! Pft! Ah! Ah ah! Countless miserable voices came, the sound of vomiting blood, the sound of broken bones, and the painful screams rang out in this world. In the terrifying place of Edmes under the attack, a group of more than a dozen strong Emperor Spirit Masters on the right side were directly split in half. Some of the strong ones who fought back were seriously injured, with blood splattering all over their bodies. One fell into the sky like a dumpling. Under the attack of Cassius, Caswall, and Edmes, the more than 30 strong men who rushed to the sky and fled, nearly 30 people died in an instant, and the remaining few, the most powerful Emperor Spirit Master was also seriously injured, or disabled, or his body was broken, or his internal organs were broken. They were all covered in blood and fell all over the streets of Kike City. The huge explosion of spiritual power slowly dissipated, and the strong smell of blood filled the sky. For a moment, the entire Kike City was silent, without a sound. Because of Elder Salskjer's call, in the short period of time before, nearly 50 powerful 8th-level Imperial spiritual masters from major families rushed to the sky and besieged Cassius and the other 6 people. However, just a short moment later, the 6 Cassius people were unscathed, but the nearly 50 powerful Emperor spiritualists from all over the Empire were dead and injured, and each one was horrific and shocking. What? Didn't any of you come up? Cassius looked at the remaining 50 or 60 strong men in the courtyard of the Decker family's mansion below, who had not rushed up immediately before, and grinned. Voice. The 50 or 60 remaining clan leaders and elders of the major forces below looked at Cassius's grinning smile, with boundless fear in their eyes. They all involuntarily took 2 steps back and turned around, uncontrollably trembling slightly. There were nearly 50 powerful Imperial spiritualists before, including 8th-level peak Imperial spiritualists such as Chief Brachi and Chief Luo Ami, and there were also quite a few 8th-level senior Imperial spiritualists, like this. A force like this, no matter where it is placed, is enough to be considered earth-shattering. However, this kind of force was killed and ravaged by the 6 Cassius men, just like chopping melons and vegetables. It gives boundless fear and shock to the remaining people. In the eyes of the remaining 50 or 60 powerful men from various major forces, and all the people in Kike City, Cassius and others looked like the incarnation of the devil at this moment, which made people feel fear and tremble. In fact, even though the previous team were all 8th-level Emperor spiritual masters, with such a large number of people attacking together, even if they faced a low-level 9th-level Holy Spirit Master, they could sweep through everything without fear. Unfortunately, what they met was not one 9th-level Holy Spirit Master, but 5 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Masters, and they were extremely evil 9th-level Holy Spirit Masters like Cassius, whose strength far exceeded that of ordinary people. When the entire Kike City was silent, and the remaining heads and elders of the major families were trembling with fear, in the sky, Radamandes and Thor were confronting Jason and Wayne. Elder Erskia was also stunned. You are all Holy Spirit Masters who have advanced to the 9th level. This, a hint of something bad, flashed in Elder Radamandes's mind, and Elder Salskjer's heart was filled with boundless emotions of fear. They never thought that Lon Yugusin and the others would all be promoted to the 9th level of Holy Spirit Masters. In this way, including Wayne, the opponent actually has 6 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Masters, plus Jason, who is not as good as the Holy Spirit Master at all. The powerful Master is weak, but on his side there are only Radamandes himself, a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, and Salskjer, a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master. The contrast in power between the two is immediately apparent. Out. When Jialua failed to kill Jason and others, he forced them into Jedi number 9 in the Forbidden Land of the Seven-Star Sea. Only the leaders of the 4 major forces knew the specific process, and in the Spirit Master Tower, only the Great Elder Bojika who was present at the time knew. Sid knew that. As for Radamandes and others, although they knew the result, in order to save their own face, Jiao Luo did not tell others about the embarrassing situation of being besieged by Jason and others. This caused Radamandes to be in such a passive situation. Casper, Wayne, and Edmes, the 3 of you have dealt with this Elder Salskjer. Jason said indifferently in the sky. No problem. Caswall and Edmes sneered in the crowd. What? In order to prevent Wayne from taking action earlier, Solskjaer, the elder who was confronting Wayne, was shocked when he heard Jason's words. He had panic on his face and was about to return to Radamandes's house. Next to him, at this moment, whoosh. Whoosh. Two terrifying pressures fell from the sky. Caswall and Edmes had already arrived. Together with Wayne, the three of them took the rope. Elder Erskia was surrounded. In the sky, the murderous intent of the three people was firmly locked on Elder Solskjaer, and the power with a terrifying aura rose in the bodies of the three people. What a waste. Any one of us is more than enough to deal with you, but since Jason gave the order, in order to save time, let's work together to deal with you. Wayne sneered. Surrounded by three people, Elder Solskjaer felt the terrifying pressure from the three Waynes. His face suddenly showed panic. He looked anxiously at Radamandes and nervously called for help. Elder Radamandes, save me. You. Elder Radamandes's eyes boiled with murderous intent. He swayed suddenly and was about to rush towards Elder Solskjaer. Whoa. However, before Radamandes could fly far, the next moment, a figure exuding a terrifying aura suddenly flew in front of him and stopped him instantly. Elder Radamandes, your opponent is me. Jason looked at Radamandes with cold eyes and said indifferently, to avenge my father, today, I will kill you with my own hands. Only then can I relieve the hatred in my heart. When he thought of his father's miserable appearance in the torture chamber, boundless anger arose in Jason's heart. Kill me with your own hands, just you? Elder Radamandes sneered, but in his heart, at this moment, he no longer dared to look down upon me. While Jason and Radamandes were confronting each other, the three Wayne men surrounding Solskjaer in the distance took action without mercy. Boom! 3 attacks packed with terrifying spiritual power arrived in front of Elder Solskjaer in an instant. Under the explosion of infinite spiritual power, the void was vulnerable and shattered instantly. 2 blue and 1 gold attacks, it was 3 torrents that washed over the head of Elder Solskjaer. Ah! Feeling the terrifying attacks from the 3 men, Elder Solskjaer was filled with panic. He roared angrily, and the 9th level low-level fire spiritual power in his body was released desperately, and the long sword in his hand violently standing in front of him, endless flames were spitting out, trying to stop the 3 people's attacks. But it was useless. Under the powerful attacks of Wayne and Caswall, 2 low-level 9th level ice-based Holy Spirit Masters, the flames on the sword in Elder Solskjaer's hand were actually directly frozen, exuding an extremely cold air. The ice spiritual power spread to Elder Solskjaer's body and sealed him in ice. Whoops! The next moment, the golden sword rainbow released by Edmes fiercely flew towards the Elder Solskjaer. Roar! Between life and death, in the solid ice, Elder Solskjaer's eyes widened in an instant. There was fear in his eyes, silent anger came out of his mouth, and the fire spiritual power in his body kept gushing out, thinking to break out of the extremely cold ice that seals you. Crack! Crack suddenly appeared on the huge ice, but it did not break apart. If he was only frozen by one of Wayne or Caswall, the ice might still be broken. It was possible, but now he was facing a joint attack from 2 people who were stronger than him. In a moment, he couldn't break free of the ice. In the ice, under the horrified gaze of Elder Solskjaer, the golden sword rainbow released by Edmes fell directly on the ice surrounding Elder Solskjaer. Pung! In the terrifying golden spiritual power, the ice on the surface of Elder Solskjaer's body burst instantly, and the unparalleled golden sword rainbow slashed directly on his body. Elder Solskjaer's body, the flame armor that Biao had barely condensed, collapsed in an instant, and the golden sword rainbow, containing terrifying spiritual power, directly cut a huge wound in his chest, and blood continued to gush out from it. Ah! Elder Solskjaer let out a shrill scream, but before he could react, the 3 Waynes had already taken action again. Solskjaer. Seeing this scene, Radamandi Elder C's eyes were full of anxiety. The next moment, his eyes suddenly darkened, and he stared coldly at Jason, who was standing in front of him. Die! Suddenly, a terrifying roar burst out from Radamandes's mouth, and the powerful sound waves echoed over the city of Kike. The people of the entire city were in front of Radamandes. They fell down under the roar, and many people spurted blood from their mouths and even fainted. An indescribable force rose from Radamandes's body. His eyes were red with a crazy bloodlust. A staff glowing with black light appeared in his right hand in an instant, pointing at where Jason was. He swung his staff heavily. Boom! In the void, a black stream of light poured out from the sky like a black Milky Way. With endless majesty, it rushed toward Jason's location. Well done! Facing the attack of Radamandes, a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, Jason's eyes not only showed no fear, but were full of fighting spirit. He roared in anger, and the surface of his body was covered in black armor, and the black heavy sword in his hand was swung, and it suddenly collided with the attack from Elder Radamandes. Boom! The sky's spiritual power surged, and the void collapsed, revealing a huge black hole. Under this terrifying force, Jason's body suddenly retreated for more than 10 meters, and Radamandes released the black stream of light that came out also collapsed suddenly, and the whole person also retreated 10 meters. What? Seeing that Jason, who was the 8th-level Peak Emperor spiritual master, could block the attack and seemed to be evenly matched with him, Radamandes was greatly shocked and looked at Jason with shock on his face. Senior. It was you who took action before. Now, it's my turn. Jason's eyes glowed with divine light, and he shouted coldly. The 8th-level peak spiritual power in his body was combined with the god-destroying art and the spiritual god art. Under the operation, it was promoted to the extreme, and at the same time, the 4 spirit beads in his mind were also running crazily. The 5 elements are born and destroyed, the reincarnation of life and death. Jason roared, and the black heavy sword was like a black angry dragon, striking directly at Radamandes. You are looking for death. Seeing Jason's arrogance, Radamandes was completely angry. A strange aura erupted from his body, and black mist filled everything. Radamandes, like a black demon god, the black spiritual staff in his hand emitted a strange light and collided with the black heavy sword swung by Jason. The secret of darkness, the way of destruction. Boom! The 2 powerful forces collided again, and the void continued to shake and collapse. Jason was thrown away all of a sudden, and cracks appeared on the black armor on his body. A trace of blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. However, on the side, Radamandes also felt uncomfortable. His figure also retreated violently in the void, the black robe on his body burst open, and he let out a painful groan from his mouth. Radamandes looked at Jason with shock and anger in his eyes. He was a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, and Jason was a peak 8th-level Imperial Spirit Master. But just like this, in the previous 2 battles, he didn't take any advantage at all, so Radamandes could hardly believe his eyes, and his mind was greatly shocked. Ah! At this moment a shrill scream suddenly sounded not far away, and an earth-shattering roar of spiritual power resounded throughout the world. Under the joint attack of the 3 Waynes, the ropes of the Kamikaze Empire's Holy Land Elder Erzkia finally couldn't hold on any longer and was hit by the Dream Spirit sword in Wayne's hand. His entire lower body was directly blasted into nothingness, and his upper body was also completely frozen. In the trembling, frightened, and disbelieving eyes of all the people in Kike City, Elder Salskjaer, who is a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, only has half of his body left. His internal organs and blood are constantly being thrown away, and the half of the body is heavy. Fell from the sky, shocking everyone. The Elder Salskjaer is dead. Elder Salskjaer, an elder of the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire and a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, died. Boundless fear spread in the provincial capital of Kiro Province in the hinterland of the Kamikaze Empire, completely shocking everyone. The remaining 56 patriarchs and elders of major families in the Dekray mansion below were also shocked. Was stunned. The next moment escape, everyone, run away. Elder Salskjaer is dead, my god, then why there were cries, panic, the sound resounded in Kike City, and the remaining clan heads and elders of the major forces who attended the Dekray family banquet all screamed in horror and fled in all directions desperately. The death of Elder Salskjaer made them completely lose the courage to continue to stay. Even Elder Salskjaer, who was a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, died. If the other party were to massacre the city, everyone present could say, no one will survive. Facing the remaining people who were running away, Caswall and others did not pursue them. Instead, they looked at Radamandes, whom Jason was confronting. Whoosh! 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 Auras exuding terrifying holy-level pressure dispersed. Wayne, Lanuigusan, Cassinus, Edmes, Caswall, the 6 Monachus surrounded Jason and Radamandes from a distance to prevent Radamandes from escaping. Salskjaer. Seeing this scene, Radamandes's heart twitched violently. He was not sad for Salskjaer's death, but trembling for his next fate. You are all going to die today. Radamandes spoke fiercely with ferocious eyes and endless killing intent. As soon as he finished speaking, he took action against Jason again. Rumble. In the sky, boundless spiritual power surged like huge waves. At this moment, Radamandes fully released his 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master's strength and launched a violent storm towards Jason. A similar attack. Come on. Jason was not afraid and rushed forward fiercely. A war broke out completely. Boom. In the sky, terrifying spiritual power boiled, and Jason and Radamandes fought fiercely. 2 blurry afterimages collided continuously in the sky. Each collision would penetrate the void and knock down a piece of sky. They would hit from the sky to the ground, from one side of Kike City to the other side, and they would pass by. Everywhere was in a mess, countless buildings were blown to pieces, the whole city was in a mess, the streets in Kike City, and the large amounts of bluestone and rock formations paved on the ground were all turned into powder, exposing the deep soil, and the earth was covered with debris. He was trembling, as if he was shivering under the attack of the 2 people. This is a scene that looks like the end of the world. The sky has lost its color, the scorching sun has lost its brilliance, and the heaven and earth have become chaos. It has become an ominous feeling in the hearts of the people in Kike City. The terrible atmosphere runs through the 9 heavens and 10 places, and the entire city. 1/3 of the buildings in Kike City were destroyed and collapsed during the battle between the 2, turning into a mess and ruins. Pfft. As the battle progressed, numerous cracks appeared on Jason's black armor, and he was covered in blood and injuries. However, Radamandes was not having an easy time either, with blood constantly spilling from the corners of his mouth. The clothes are so shabby that the building is in a state of utter embarrassment. This is an extremely brutal battle, and it is also an evenly matched battle. No one can easily injure the opponent. While leaving a wound on the opponent's body, he will also suffer a similar injury. This kind of battle seems fair, but there is a huge difference between the 2, that is, Jason, who has the wood spirit pearl, becomes more brave as he fights, and at the same time he recovers from his injuries. However, Radamandes became more and more frightened as he fought, and the offensive in his hands also slowed down a bit. You must know that Jason, who was fighting against him, was only an 8th-level peak Imperial Spiritual Master. When he was at the mainland Genius Trial Place, Radamandes also met Jason and Joe. In the fight between Dominic, the first genius of the Spiritual Master Tower, the 2 could be said to be evenly matched, with not much difference. At most, they could fight to a tie with some low-level 9th-level Holy Spirit Masters, which was already quite impressive. However, after only a few months of fighting, Jason was able to fight to a tie with him. Jason's growth rate filled Radamandes with fear. At this moment, he finally understood why Atkinson Tower ranked Jason first on the genius kill list of all major forces. This amazing growth potential is enough to make anyone tremble and fear. But at this moment, Radamandes can no longer care so much, because he knows that Jason alone can fight him like this. If the remaining Wayne and others take action, even though they are only 9, he is a low-level Holy Spirit master, but with so many people joining forces, they can definitely kill him here. No, we can't go on like this, otherwise, I'm afraid Radamandes, will really die here today. At this moment, Radamandes roared in his heart, and a trace of fierceness suddenly flashed in his eyes. Boom! In the brief confrontation after a battle, a terrifying spiritual energy suddenly burst out from Radamandes's body, and black mist, like a wriggling poisonous snake, lingered up and down. Damandes's body was constantly twisting, giving people an extremely monstrous feeling. At this moment, Radamandes' expression became extremely ferocious. Black mist spread on his face, turning his face into black and blue. Black veins appeared on Radamandes's face. His face was squirming like a bug, looking extremely disgusting. His pupils turned pitch black in an instant, as if they had turned into a puddle of stagnant water, spinning like a kaleidoscope, looking extremely weird. An inexplicable aura spread across the sky and the earth, and the color of the sky was completely obscured. It was as black as ink. All the people in Jike City felt their hearts beating. There was a kind of the feeling of palpitation spreads from the depths of the heart, making people full of palpitations and extremely uncomfortable. One of the mysteries of the dark system, dark eyes. In Radamandes's strange low voice, his strange eyes instantly stared at Jason. Whoops! 2 black auroras, like meteors piercing the sky, burst out from the Radamandes double formation, and came to Jason in the blink of an eye. Wherever they passed, the space directly transformed. The particles flowed one after another, exuding an extremely terrifying aura. What? Jason's hair stood on end, feeling the danger. His eyes were full of solemnity. Before facing such a powerful attack from Radamandes, the spiritual god in Jason's body was running wildly. The 8th level peak spiritual power surged like a tide, and then crazily poured into the black épée in his hand. At this moment, the black heavy sword in Jason's hand exuded an unparalleled power, which collided heavily with the 2 black aurora that passed by like lightning. Boom! In the terrifying explosion, Jason's figure retreated in the void, and a strange spiritual power was instantly transmitted into Jason's body along the black heavy sword in Jason's hand. Jason's body trembled violently, and drops of blood oozed from all over his body. The strange force continued to destroy Jason's body. However, before this force could go crazy for a long time, it lay dormant. In Jason's body, as Jason's strength increased, the growing black strange power suddenly began to flow and collided with the strange power. There is no suspense. The strange force that Radamandes invaded Jason's body was bombarded by the strange black power in Jason's body. In an instant, it was like a white snow under the scorching sun. Snow White instantly disappeared into nothingness and was shattered into pieces. In the void, Radamandes attacked with all his strength. Regardless of the outcome, he turned around suddenly. Whoosh! The whole person turned into a black stream of light and flew towards the distant sky like lightning, actually preparing to escape. Because the scope of the battle between Jason and Radamandes was too large, the encirclement of Wayne and the other 6 people also expanded a lot, but it always surrounded the 2 people in 6 directions. At this moment, it was Cassinus who was flying in the direction of Radamandes. Want to escape? Seeing Radamandes flying towards him not far away, Cassinus could not help but reveal a sneer on his lips. Hey! His figure flashed suddenly, and the next moment, he was already blocking the direction of Radamandes's flight. You little bastard, get out of here! Seeing Cassinus blocking his way, Radamandes roared, and the black mist rolled from the black spiritual staff in his hand, aiming at Cassinus's location, and blasted away. He had previously desperately used his secrets to repel Jason, in order to find this opportunity to escape. Now that he finally succeeded, Radamandes did not allow anyone to block his way, and among the few people present, Ladamandes was only afraid of Jason, who was tied with him. For Cassinus and the others, 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Masters, Lada concubine Dis, who had never fought before and did not know the opponent's strength, was afraid. But he didn't care at all. Boom! The black mist with dark attributes continued to roll, forming a ferocious, roaring face. It opened its terrifying mouth, containing extremely terrifying power, and rushed towards Cassinus. In order to escape from here, Ladamandes launched a desperate attack on Cassinus, hoping to repel, injure or even kill Cassinus with one blow so that he could escape from here. As long as he defeated Cassinus in front of him, Radamandes believed that with the speed and strength of his 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, no one like Jason and others present could catch up with him. Facing such a powerful blow from Radamandes, Cass, instead of showing any fear, thus grinned. Opposite rays of yin and yang bloomed from the surface of Cassinus's body, and a shocking aura of spiritual power filled Foncinus's body. Inner awakening. Yin and yang determine life and death, yin and yang flow, Tai Chi transforms the two rituals, and one sword determines life and death. Cassinus shouted loudly, with a fierce fighting spirit in his eyes, and his hands bloomed with two different lights, one black and one white. The two lights followed his hands and directly entered the long sword in his hand. Above it, a gray sword energy formed, aimed at Radamandes, and struck hard. Hey! The powerful sword energy broke through the void, and wherever it passed, the space was shattered, sending out ripples, which instantly collided with Radamandes's strange attack. Boom! Amid the huge explosion, both Cassinus and Radamandes fell back more than 10 meters in the sky. Spiritual power surged in their bodies, and the smell of blood filled their throats. What? Radamandes looked at Cassinus with shock in his eyes. In his imagination, Cassinus was just a 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master, and he must have just been promoted, and as previous, although this move is not as powerful as the Dark Eyes used against Jason, it is definitely not something that ordinary 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Masters can withstand. However, Cassinus' performance surprised Radamandes. The two in the first round of the confrontation, they were evenly matched. In fact, what Radamandes didn't know was that among everyone present, Cassinus had become the strongest after being promoted to the 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master. Now, he is similar to Jason, and even a little stronger than Lanuigusan. This is not because Cassinus is so strong in perception, but because of his light and dark dual elements. As a water and wood, the strength of the dual element Blue Moon Gusan will be greatly enhanced in the forest, while Cassinus, who has two completely opposite attributes, the dual element of light and dark, after being promoted to the 9th level Holy Spirit Master, his body will be greatly enhanced. His attributes have mutated and his strength has increased. Che is the biggest among them all. In addition, Radamandes himself is a spiritual master of the dark element. Against Cassinus, who has both light and dark elements, he can only be regarded as himself. Bad luck. Radamandes was shocked when he missed the blow. He tried his best to adjust the spiritual power surging in his body. He looked hard at Cassinus, who was standing in front of him, then turned around and faced the other person. Flying away quickly. The powerful power shown by Cassinus made Radamandes understand that it was impossible for him to defeat Cassinus in a short time and escape from the encirclement. In order to prevent unnecessary waste of time, Radamandes immediately changed the target and rushed to the other side. Humph! Cassinus immediately turned into a stream of light and followed closely. However, after chasing for a moment, Cassinus suddenly stopped. It's really boring. We only fought once and then ran away. It's really disappointing. Cassinus curled his lips and stepped away. What he did together was not to let Neridamandus go, but because the other party had already entered the blockade of Blue Moon Gusan, and Cassinus naturally did not need to catch up again. On the other side of the sky, Radamandes, who was fleeing at high speed, had already met face to face with Lanuigusan, who was guarding that direction. "Get out of my way." Radamandes, who was anxious and flustered, didn't say any nonsense. Zhong roared directly and launched a fierce attack on Lan Yu Gusen's location without hesitation. Thousands of black mist, like the claws of an octopus, waved in the sky, controlled by Radamandes, and rushed towards the location of Blue Moon Gusen. "Humph." Seeing Radamandes' attack, Lan Yu Gusen sneered, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes, and small whirlpools of cyan and blue spiritual power appeared all over his body, quickly condensing into the huge elemental blade aimed at the black mist waving in the sky and stabbed it fiercely. Void slash of water and with dual elements. Buzz. With this blow, the whole ground trembled, a sharp whistling sound sounded, and the space was shattered like paper. The elemental blade, containing a terrifying aura, it collided heavily with the black mist released by Radamandes. Boom. Concubine. Boom. Earth-shattering explosions and roars resounded between the world and the sky. The black mist in the sky continued to collapse and explode under the chop of the void slash, which contained terrifying spiritual power. In the end, both of them completely turned into nothingness and disappeared in the air. What? Seeing these six scenes, Radamandes was so shocked that the hair on his body stood up. He never thought that Cassinus could block his attack before, but now the Blue Moon Gusen can also block it. Own attack. On one side, Radamandes was frightened out of his wits. On the other side, Lan Yu Gusen did not give the opponent a chance to adjust or relax. Whoops! Lan Yu Gusen threw the emerald green spiritual staff into the sky. The emerald green spiritual staff rose in the wind and instantly turned into a huge vine that snaked nearly 100 feet. God Abbot Qingmu, transform into a sacred tree, imprison the heavens and the earth, and secure the world forever. Lan Yu Gusen shouted loudly. The huge vines were like a flexible giant snake, constantly meandering and swimming with mysterious and profound auras. Continuously releasing from his body, Lu Lei let out an astonishing aura. Seizing the opportunity, the Blue Moon Gusen's twin crickets burst into tears, and the vines all over the sky twisted crazily, directly wrapping Radamandes in it. What? At this moment, Radamandes was frightened and angry. The astonishing spiritual power in his body continued to boil, hitting these huge vines. However, the extent of the heaven and earth cage released by Lan Yu Gusenii simply exceeded his imagination. When he struggled, the huge vines only trembled slightly and could not be opened. Radamandes' surprise was nothing trivial. He was a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master. To be trapped by a 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Master like Pai Lan Yu Gusen, Radamandes could hardly believe it. Own eyes. Ah, break it, break it. Radamandes' eyes suddenly widened, and waves of terrifying spiritual power like waves surged out from his body. Under his control, he fiercely hit the heaven and earth cage displayed by Lan Yu Gusen. Boom. 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 The sound of successive explosions continued to resound throughout the world, and in the face of life and death, Radamandes used all his skills to blast the tree that contained terror. The vines with elemental power exploded continuously, and the spiritual talismans and spiritual patterns flowing on the vines trembled and collapsed one by one. Go away. Finally, under Radamandes' roar, the huge vines in the sky were finally shaken and collapsed, and then turned into a spiritual staff again and fell into the blue moon. In Gusen's hands. Ho, Elder Radamandes gasped, his forehead was covered with sweat, his eyes were filled with fear, and he didn't know which direction he was running away from. He deserves to be unlucky. In the short period of time when he defeated Jason, he actually chose Cassinus and Lan Yu Gusen, the two strongest people besides Jason. It can only be said that he was unlucky, otherwise whether he was escaping in the direction of Caswall, Edmiz or Monica, it would be much better than facing Cassinus and Lan Yu Gusen. Damn it again. Radamandes, who was in a state of embarrassment and panting, was completely furious at this moment. An angry roar came from his mouth, and the dark power of the sky emerged from his body, like a statue. The demon god of hell looked at Lan Yuigusan with a ferocious face, filled with overwhelming murderous intent. He knew that he no longer had time to escape elsewhere. For this reason, he could only hope to escape by desperately repelling the Blue Moon Ancient Sin in front of him. Just when Radamandes was desperately using forbidden techniques to increase the power in his body, and wanted to launch an unprecedented violent attack on Blue Moon Gusan, the Blue Moon Gusan opposite him suddenly moved away with a swish. This action of Lan Yuigusan made Radamandes stunned. He looked at the empty and unobstructed sky. Before he could feel joy in his heart, he suddenly said Radamandes. With indifference. The voice suddenly came from behind Radamandes. Huh? Radamandes was definitely shocked. A sense of extreme danger, like the god of death, and imminent death arose in his mind without warning. In the crisis, Radamandes looked back with horror on his face. He suddenly turned around and saw not far away, Jason, who had been forced back by him before and did not catch up immediately, was looking at him with a smile on his face. Behind Jason, a huge shadow stood there proudly. It was a tall black figure, like a god who dominated killing. His whole body exuded irresistible power, and his cold eyes were cold. Looking at him, it seemed as if he could freeze the world and destroy everything. This is an indescribable terrifying force, with unparalleled powerful pressure. It makes him, a ninth-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, feel as if he is facing a towering existence thousands of times more powerful than himself. The kind of power that rises from the depths of his heart. The slight tremor that aroused made Radamandes unable to resist at all, and some of them just retreated. Whoosh! At that moment, Radamandes flew away desperately, his body like a bolt of lightning, trying to escape from Jason's place. But before he could dodge far away, buzz! A blue ripple spread out from Jason's body in an instant, enveloping Radamandes in it. Suddenly, Radamandes felt as if he had suddenly descended from the sky to the endless seabed. An extremely cold force poured into his body, making him shiver involuntarily. At the same time, a wave of flexible, the power of restraint, came from all directions and wrapped around Radamandes' body. For a moment, Radamandes felt as if he was stuck in a quagmire and could not move. Not good. Radamandes was shocked, before he could resist. God-destroying technique, the god of killing comes to the world. In the sky, Jason's cold voice like the god of death resounded throughout the world. His crickets were like lightning, bursting with light, and an extremely terrifying power spurted out from his body. At this moment, Jason, it was as if he had turned into a god of death, and the murderous intent that was as real as a substance escaped, wreaking havoc and destroying everything. In Jason's cold voice, the powerful black épée in his hand was like a straw. Jason slashed lightly towards Radamandes' location. And Radamandes yelled out in shock and anger. He was bound by the water space and could not care less about escaping. The power of the holy level, the pressure suddenly dissipated from his body, and the dark elements between heaven and earth became violent in an instant, condensing on the black spiritual staff in his hand, and then, at the last moment, they collided hard with the black heavy sword that Jason swung down. Together. Boom! There was a thunderous sound out of thin air. In the violent thunder, a terrible force spread directly from the center of the impact. The void was directly shattered, and a huge black hole appeared. It was pitch black and the space was turbulent. Crazy flow. Wear it. The terrifying aura spread, and an irresistible force burst out from the black heavy sword in Jiamu's hand, spreading directly through the black spiritual staff in Radamandes' hand. Boom! Without any resistance, the spiritual branch in Radamandes' hand trembled, and then let out a huge roar, bursting into pieces and turning into powder all over the sky. The extremely terrifying power was crushing without any pause. After the spiritual staff of that level in Radamandes' hand, it spread through Radamandes' hands, waving the spiritual staff again. Pung! Under Radamandes' extremely horrified gaze, his entire hands exploded under. this terrifying spiritual power and turned into a cloud of blood mist. At the same time, the ripples also filled his body. Pung! The robe on Radamandes was completely shattered and turned into fragments all over the sky. His body exploded everywhere, and blood arrows spurted out from it. The skin and muscles on his body exploded with blood. Dripping, exposing the bones and internal organs inside, the whole person instantly became a bloody man, and was thrown heavily. Under the bombardment of Jason's killing god, Radamandes, a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit master, was covered in scars. Tired and embarrassed, he couldn't even keep flying in the air. He could only breathe out, and there was no air coming in. He fell directly towards the ground of Kike City. In the sky, Jason's figure shaking again. The next moment, he had arrived in front of the fallen Radamandes. His eyes were as cold as the ice of the Arctic ice sheet, full of coldness, and the black eye slashed down ruthlessly. Pung! Radamandes, the second elder of the spiritual master pagoda, the most powerful person in the mainland, and a 9th-level intermediate spiritual master, was just like that. He was cut into nothingness by a sword and ceased to exist. The howling wind kept blowing. Roaring over the city of Kike, Jason stood proudly in the sky holding a heavy sword, his long black hair swaying crazily in the wind, like a god of death from ancient times, dominating the world. At this moment, the entire film, there was deathly silence between heaven and earth. On a November day, the weather has entered winter. Over the sky above Kike City, the howling wind is blowing constantly, bringing endless chill. In the sky-filled spirit 20 elements that originally covered the sky have gradually become silent and disappeared without a trace. The warm sunshine once again spreads down from the sky, falling on the entire Kike City. On the people. But at this moment, there was no warmth in the hearts of all the people in Kike City. Instead, there was a bone-chilling chill blooming from deep within. The 8 figures standing proudly in the sky were like 8 demon gods, deeply reflected in everyone's hearts, giving people endless shock and awe. Elder Salskjer, who used to be the holy land of the Kamikaze Empire, fell, but now, Elder Radamandes of Lienling Master Tower also fell in the hands of this group of people, which made the people of the entire Kike City, all felt deep fear. Who is Elder Radamandes? That is the second elder of the Spiritual Master Tower, a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master. He has a prominent and noble status in the Spiritual Master Tower. In the minds of ordinary people like Jika City, he is definitely a godlike figure, but he is so powerful. The latter, who was like an insignificant ant before, was killed mercilessly by Jason without any hesitation. What worries these people even more is the hatred between the Kamikaze Empire and Jason and others. Now in Stern Continent, even the most idiotic people know that the Kamikaze Empire has already united with the Spiritual Master Tower and the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. Standing in the opposite position, if Jason and others from the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower were to massacre in Kike City in order to retaliate against the Kamikaze Empire, the Yuanshu people present would tremble in their hearts when they thought of this. Incessantly. They are not like the heads of the major families who attended the Dekray family banquet. They are all 8th-level Emperor spiritual masters and can flee in all directions. Once Jason and others have the intention of massacring the city, they can kill the entire city in a flash. Every city was destroyed in a flash. This master in the distant sky, while Elder Radamandes and Jason and others were fighting, Li Fons, the patriarch of the Dekray family, did not escape, but just watched from a distance. In his mind, he did not believe that his master, who was a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, would be defeated by Jason and others, so he was still confident at first, but now he saw that Radamandes was defeated and was completely bombarded by Jason. When it turned into nothingness, Livens in the sky not far away, his eyes were suddenly filled with horror, and his mouth was full of disbelief as he murmured, "Oh, by the way, there is still a little fly here that has not been dealt with." Feeling the presence of Livens not far away, Cassinus grinned. Schwa. The eyes of Jason and others, at this moment, all fell on Lifonzi. The 8 auras containing terrifying pressure locked Nali Fonzie firmly, and everyone's eyes were on him. They were all joking. Feeling everyone's gaze, Livin's face suddenly turned pale, and he immediately said whoosh. Livins turned around suddenly, not even paying attention to the clansmen in the family mansion below, and flew towards the distant sky in panic. Want to escape? The corners of everyone's mouths were sneered. As 9th-level Holy Spirit Masters, they now looked down upon Li Fons, an 8th-level Intermediate Emperor Spiritual Master. In the void, Cassilaus fiercely as soon as he raised his hand, a black and white spiritual light flashed between his palms, aiming at Livins who was flying rapidly into the distance. Boom! A terrible suction force suddenly rose up in the world. At this moment, Livins, who had already flown into the distance, was caught by Cassinus, and his flying figure was suddenly in the void. He was frozen in place, struggling like an ant. But with his 8th-level intermediate strength, how could he struggle under Cassinus's grasp? Under Cassinus's powerful suction, he seemed to be trapped. As if being pulled by a thread, instead of being able to stay away from here, he was quickly pulled towards him. There was fear in Livin's eyes, and his limbs were constantly twisting in the void, and his whole body seemed to be strangled. In his neck, the 8th-level intermediate spiritual power in his body was constantly being released. He tried to struggle, but was completely unable to break free. This Levanzi is simply too weak. It's really boring to kill him. Cassinus shook his head. A terrifying spiritual power was suddenly released from his body, and his left hand was raised high. Let me do it. Just when Cassinus was about to kill Levanzi with one palm, Renaud, who had been recovering from his injuries and had never made a move, suddenly opened fire in the sky. Cassinus was stunned, and when he saw it was Renaud, he nodded immediately. Livins, when you went to the Kingdom of Orlando to hunt me down and tortured me in the torture chamber, you probably didn't expect that you would be here today, right? Renaud slowly flew forward and spoke to Li Fons with a cold face. At this time, Li Fons, who knew his end, stopped struggling. He stared at the person in front of him with resentment in his eyes. Renaud. Haha, Renaud, Jason, you can be wild now, but you won't be proud for long. Lefonzi said ferociously. This is the Kamikaze Empire in the sequel. The news that you killed Elder Radamandes and Salskjaer will soon spread to the Holy Land of the Empire and the Spiritual Master Tower, Master Atkinson Tower and Holy Master Cumberbatch will definitely avenge me, and when the time comes, you will all die, ha ha, you will all die. Livins laughed crazily. Really? No matter if there is such a day, it's a pity that you can't see it anymore. Renaud's face was cold, and a golden light that connected heaven and earth spurted out from his hand, and instantly fell on Lefonzi's head. The expression of Levanzi, who was laughing crazily, suddenly froze, and thousands of golden lights instantly submerged into his body. Pung! The next moment, Li Fonz's body suddenly exploded, turning into a blood mist that filled the sky, disappearing into the void, and completely perished. By the way, there's Augustus. At this moment, Wayne seemed to have thought of something and said something. Yes, and there is Augustus. Only at this moment did Jason and the others remember that Augustus was also here, and every moment they turned their attention to the mansion of the Decre family below. It was terrifying. His spiritual consciousness instantly swept across the entire city of Kike. But no matter how hard Jason and the others searched, they could not find Augustus. Augustus, who was seriously injured by Wayne's 6 palms at the beginning, had already taken advantage of the chaos and left here when the heads of the major families rushed towards Lon Yugusin and others and were instantly killed. This Augustus Wayne and others gritted their teeth. They didn't expect the other party to be so cunning, but it was also because they were fighting against Radamandes and Salskjaer. Although everyone was powerful, they did not dare to do it. The slightest negligence or carelessness gave the other party a chance to escape. Jason, what should we do with the Decre family? Cassinus asked as he looked at the Decre family's mansion below and the Decre family members hiding in various parts of the mansion. Jason and Renaud looked at each other, their eyes flashed fiercely, and then they looked at Cassinus. I understand. Seeing Jason's eyes, Cassinus already understood what Jason meant. There was a sneer on the corner of his mouth, and he raised his right hand far away, and then aimed at the residence of the Decre family, slapped down hard. Boom! Amidst the terrifying explosion of spiritual power, a huge elemental handprint appeared in the void, and then pressed down towards the residence of the Decre family. No! Seeing these sick scenes, the elders and others of the Decre family who had been hiding in various places in the mansion flew out from their hiding places one by one, and flew towards the outside of the mansion in fear. Among them were several 7th-level Imperial Spirit Masters, all of whom rose into the sky and flew in all directions. However, under the attack of Cassinus, many elders and members of the Decre family were like small fishes in a basin. No matter how hard he struggled, they could never swim out of the basin. Under the horrified gazes of countless people in Kike City, the elemental hand, condensed by Cassinus, crashed down heavily, hitting the bodies of many elders of the Decre family who were flying around like headless flies. Pung! 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 The terrifying spiritual power dispersed, and with just a touch, many elders of the Decre family, who were 7th-level Imperial Spiritual Masters, uttered these words one by one. There was a shrill scream, and it exploded instantly, turning into a puff of blood mist. The huge elemental seal continued unabated and struck hard on the Decre family's mansion again. Boom! In the deafening roar, the sky collapsed and the earth shattered. The entire city of Kike shook under Cassinus's blow, as if an earthquake had occurred. Countless smoke and dust rose into the air, covering everything. Who? A strong wind blew past, blowing away the startled smoke and dust. Hiss! The next moment, the entire city of Kike suddenly heard the sound of gasping for air. Many people who were not far away from the Decrete family's residence stared blankly at the man in front of them. Where the Decre family's mansion used to be, there was fear in the eyes. There, the original Decre family mansion had long since disappeared. What was left was just a pit with a depth of tens of meters, which appeared in the center of Kike City, which was shocking. Because of the rise of Livens, the Decre family, which has recently become the first family in the entire Kiro province and the top family in the empire, was just flattened to the ground with a single palm. All the elders of the Decre family, the core members, were completely destroyed and turned into ashes under the palm of Cassinus. However, there was no mercy in the eyes of Jason and the others. It was not that Jason and the others did not understand this principle. Let's go, Jason said indifferently. The next moment, in the trembling and frightened eyes of countless people in Kike City, everyone turned into 8 streams of light and disappeared into the sky in an instant. After Jason and others left Kike City, which was originally dead, gradually regained its vitality. Looking at the messy Kike City, with ruins in many places, at this moment, in the hearts of all the people in Kike City, there was a feeling of survival after the disaster, and then the feeling rose in everyone's heart. It was a deep tremor. Elder Taladamandes, the spiritual master, died. Elder Salskjir of the Imperial Holy Land is dead. As the top family in the empire, the Yuan Yikani of the Decre family in the hearts of all the people of Kike City, the sky collapsed at this moment, because of the battle between Jason and Radamandes, which caused the collapse. Half of the city lord's mansion. A middle-aged man wearing a noble spiritual master's robe, trembling, came to the body of Elder Salskjir with only half of it left. Seeing Elder Salskjir's miserable body, the power in the middle-aged man's body, seemed to be absorbed in an instant. The whole man fell down on the ruins beside him in despair, his eyes were blank. Lord City Lord. The middle-aged man's failure immediately attracted the exclamations of many soldiers who were following him. The next moment, messenger, hurry up, and send the news about what happened here to the Holy Land of the Empire. He slumped there. The middle-aged man, who didn't know where the strength came from, jumped up suddenly, trembling all over, and screamed at the top of his lungs. This scream was so hoarse, so heart-shaking. In the empty space, the news about Kike City spread far and wide, echoing for a long time. Soon after Jason and others left Kike City, it was the imperial capital of the Kamikaze Empire. This is the administrative, cultural, and economic center of the Kamikaze Empire, one of the 4 major empires on the mainland. It is extremely majestic and prosperous, but it is nearly 100 miles away from the imperial capital. Here is a majestic mountain, stretching for hundreds of miles, and in the middle of the mountain is a mountain peak that towers into the sky. If someone looks up from the foot of the mountain looking around, you can see that this mountain peak rises from the ground, soars into the sky, majestic like a giant, standing outside the imperial capital of the Kamikaze Empire, protecting the imperial capital, holding up a piece of heaven and earth. This is Kamikaze, the most sacred place in the empire, the dream place of countless talented disciples, the holy land of the empire. In this mountain range, there are countless palaces and hinterlands, densely packed, and there is a large palace complex on the mountainside of the main peak, shrouded in clouds and mist. They were built in a basin in the center of the mountain and were surrounded by the center. This is where the holy hands of the Kamikaze Empire practice and live. At this moment, a large number of disciples are flying through the city, communicating with each other. Prosperity. And at the upper end of the main peak, there is a strong aura of spiritual power lingering in the clouds, like a tide, constantly surging on the top of the peak, rolling and giving people an unspeakable shock. In the Holy Land, the main peak represents status, body, and soul. Many talented disciples who are the holy sons of the Holy Land are located on the mountainside of the main peak, but only the elders of the Holy Land can live on the top of the peak. According to normal circumstances, as the place where the elders live and practice, it is always peaceful on the main peak of the Holy Land. Incomparably, it seems like a peaceful paradise, but at this moment, boom! An extremely terrifying pressure suddenly came from a palace on the top of the main peak. This pressure was so terrifying that as soon as it was passed out, the sky above the entire mountain range suddenly changed, like thunder. Coming, dark clouds rolled in, giving people a doomsday scene of approaching death. Damn it, an angry voice, containing terrible coercion, resounded throughout the world, and was instantly transmitted to the entire Holy Land. For a moment, the originally noisy Holy Land fell silent in an instant. In the Holy Sun City on the mountainside, a large number of holy sons from the Holy Land raised their heads in fear, feeling the astonishing pressure coming from the top of the mountain, and their faces turned pale. I don't understand what happened there. Just when all the holy sons were frightened, an unparalleled terrifying pressure suddenly descended from the top of the mountain and spread to the entire Holy Land, causing all the holy sons to worship involuntarily. He was frightened. All the elders of the Holy Land listened and immediately went to the holy pointing platform. Violators will be killed. A majestic voice, containing boundless anger, passed down from the top of the mountain and continued to resound throughout the Holy Land. The terrifying sound rumbled in the Holy Land, shocking everyone in the Holy Land. Point the holy platform? What happened? Isn't that the highest place for our Holy Land expedition? Is it the force we are about to go to war with? Is this voice the Holy Lord Cumberbatch of our Holy Land? Oh my God, what happened? All the holy sons were filled with shock. As the holy sons of the Holy Land, they naturally understood the significance of the holy platform, which is the most supreme place for expeditions in the Holy Land. Only when there is an all-out battle with a certain big force will they. Under the shocked gazes of countless disciples, from the peaks all over the Holy Land, streams of light exuding terrifying auras rise into the sky and fly past. He headed towards the Dianxing platform at the highest point of the main peak of the Holy Land. At the top of the main peak, there was a platform surrounded by clouds and mist. Whoosh! 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 Streams of light flew by quickly, and landed quickly on the platform, revealing their figures. These were old and middle-aged men who exuded a terrifying aura. They were all majestic, gorgeously dressed, and powerful. Extraordinary, it gives people an endlessly terrifying aura, and just one look at it makes people feel fearful. Is that the voice of the Holy Lord just now? I don't know what happened. Why did the Holy Lord let us all on the holy platform? I have been an elder for more than 100 years and have experienced countless incidents, large and small. However, like today, this is the first time I have been summoned to the holy lighting platform. What happened? As soon as these old and middle-aged people came to the platform, their eyes were filled with shock, and they were talking among themselves, noisily. These old and middle-aged people are all elders of the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire. Each one of them has extraordinary strength. The weakest ones are all 8th level senior or even peak emperor spiritual masters. Some of the strongest ones are even 9th level low-level ones. There is a Holy Spirit Master, and there is even a 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Master. His status is noble, and his appearance in the Empire is enough to cause a huge sensation. He sits on one side and is famous. But now, this group of powerful men seem to have lost their souls. They no longer had the solemnity of the past, and they all talked to each other with horror on their faces. This summons was really too shocking. It had not appeared in the history of the Kamikaze Empire for more than 1,000 years. Boom! Just as everyone was shocked and talking, 2 terrifying pressures suddenly appeared in front of the platform. Immediately, on the high platform in front of the holy platform, 2 people with shocking auras suddenly appeared. Silhouette. I have met 2 venerable lords. Upon seeing the voices of these 2 people, many elders on the platform stopped talking and spoke respectfully. These 2 people are the 2 venerables in the Holy Land of the Empire, whose status is only lower than the Holy Lord, Oldman and Matthew. Both of them are 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Masters. After the 2 people appeared, they did not make a sound. Instead, they stood on both sides of the high platform and then bowed. A tall, majestic figure suddenly walked out of the most luxurious palace at the top of the main peak. A majestic aura instantly filled the entire mountain, and the astonishing pressure dissipated, giving people an extremely shocking feeling. Move. Greetings to the Holy Lord. Seeing this figure, a large group of elders on the platform hurriedly bowed and shouted loudly. This majestic figure is none other than the Holy Lord of the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire, Kongbosiki, who is a 9th level senior Holy Spirit Master. At this moment, Cumberbatch's face was gloomy, his eyes were full of anger, and his expression gave people a sense of extreme terror. Everyone, we are summoned today because there is something very important, even related to the prestige of our Kamikaze Empire for thousands of years. We need to do it. As soon as Cumberbatch appeared, he spoke directly without any courtesy. After making a sound, the next moment, he waved his right hand violently. In an instant, dozens of jade slips turned into streams of light and fell into the hands of many elders present. Everyone, not long ago, an extremely serious incident occurred in Kike City in the Kiro province of our Kamikaze Empire. The process of the incident is in this jade slip. Please watch it. Kongbo Bucky rumbled in his mouth. Immediately, many elders who wanted to know what happened all put their spiritual consciousness into the jade slip and began to examine it. After this survey, the expressions of everyone who originally had doubts on their faces suddenly became dull. How is this possible? How could such a thing happen? Then how could Jason and others survive after they heard that they had been killed by the Jia Luo Deputy Tower Master of the Spiritual Master Tower in the 7-star Sea Forbidden Area? That's nonsense. The talk is simply nonsense. Not only did Jason and others not die, they were promoted to the 9th level of Holy Spirit Master. How could this happen? Salskjer Chonkao actually died. Elder Salskjer in our Holy Land has died. He was a 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master. Not only Elder Salskjer, but also Elder Radamandes from the Spiritual Master Tower was killed. Oh my god, what is going on? Elder Radamandes is a 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Master. Why did such a thing happen? After seeing the content in this jade slip, this large group of people exuded terror. The old man and the middle-aged man who was breathing suddenly had boundless shock in their eyes, and they spoke in shock. The news they received was really too shocking, making them unable to remain calm anymore, making everyone change their color and unable to control themselves. What is recorded on this jade slip is exactly what happened in Jike City, Jilua province of the empire. The complete destruction of the Dekray family in the empire, the death of nearly 50 major family patriarchs in the empire, the death of Elder Salskjer in the Holy Land, and the death of the spiritual master Taladamandes. These few pieces of news are comparable to each other. One was shocked, each was more horrifying than the other, making everyone present who received the news tremble involuntarily. Let's not talk about the death of Elder Taladamandes, the spiritual master who was a 9th-level intermediate Holy Spirit master. Let's not talk about the death of Elder Salskjer. It is enough to just talk about the death of nearly 50 patriarchs of major families in the empire. It made the entire Kamikaze Empire feel as if a magnitude 10 earthquake had occurred, shaking the entire empire. You must know that of the nearly 50 clan leaders who died, 4 of them were 8th-level peak Emperor spiritual masters, 10 were 8th-level advanced Emperor spiritual masters, and the remaining 30-odd people were all 8th-level intermediate and low-level Emperor spiritual masters. Emperor Spirit Master, such a force, no matter where it is placed, is a force that cannot be ignored, occupying almost 1/6 of the entire Kamikaze Empire's big families. But just before, they all fell in Kike City. This even for the 4 major continental empires like the Kamikaze Empire, it was an extremely huge disaster. Elders, you are all powerful men of our Kamikaze Empire and are precious treasures of our Kamikaze Empire. Chiefs Brachi and Luoami are also powerful men of our empire. But now, the spiritual medicine master Towers Jason and others actually killed Elder Salskjer and slaughtered so many powerful men in the territory of our Kamikaze Empire. They acted like this and simply didn't take our Kamikaze Empire seriously. We, the strong men of the Kamikaze Empire, take it seriously. On the high platform of the holy lighting platform, Kongbosiki looked angry and cold, scanning the faces of all the elders present. Such a thing happened. What do you think we should do? Blood debt must be paid with blood. Never let them go, kill them all, and avenge the major families of our empire. Avenge Elder Salskjer, avenge! Many, many elders, after hearing Kongbosiki's words, they roared excitedly, their eyes filled with anger. The elders of his own empire and the heads of many big families were killed mercilessly in the empire. Such things would be enough to arouse anyone's anger, no matter where they were placed. Okay, very good. Kongbosiki looked at the people below, coldly. According to the intelligence, Jason and others are still within the territory of our Kamikaze Empire. According to my calculation, they came here this time in order to rescue Renault. Now after rescuing Renault, they will definitely return to the Alchemist Tower, because only the Alchemist Tower can protect them. Therefore, you all set out immediately to seal off the entire empire and move toward Kilo. In the direction of the province, advance towards the Kamikaze Empire in the central part of the continent. Once the situation is discovered, immediately send a message to me through spiritual power. We must not let them escape our encirclement. Yes. Many elders below, all of them promised loudly. Lord, Holy Lord. At this moment, an old man with a hooked nose walked out from among the many elders. This old man was wearing a set of blue spiritual master robes, and his body was constantly exuding amazing spiritual power, giving people a sense of profound power. Lord, Holy Lord, as you said, if Jason and the others return to the spiritual medicine master tower now, it will be difficult for us to catch up with our speed, right? Kiro, the province is located in the hinterland of the empire, in the central region, while the Holy Land of the empire is located in the northern part of the empire. The spiritual medicine master tower is located in the middle of the continent, in the south of the empire. The Kilo province is located between the imperial capital and the spiritual medicine master tower. If Jason and others start from Ji Luo return to the spiritual medicine master tower, but everyone set off from the Holy Land. Except for Cumberbatch, who was a 9th level senior Holy Spirit master, the others couldn't catch up with Jason and others. Stephen, don't worry, that Jason also killed Elder Radamandes of the spiritual master tower. This time, our kamikaze empire is not the only force to pursue that Jason and others. The face of Holy Master Kongbosiki, he showed a cold smile, and I have also sent the message, so that the city lords and many forces in the empire's major provinces will guard the local area, search, and once the news about Jason and others is found, they will be passed back. This time, then Jason and others will not be able to escape. But there must be someone in the Holy Land. Oldman, you can stay in the Holy Land and take charge of the sons of God. Also, please remember that according to intelligence, there are 6 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Masters on Jason's side. Although Jason is not a Holy Spirit Master yet, his strength is comparable to that of an ordinary 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Master. This time it is Jason and the connection between the two was the one who killed Radamandes. Therefore, after you meet Jason and others, do not fight, just send a message back and wait for my arrival. Now, everyone, according to the arrangements I have given to each of you in the jade slips, let's go. Holy Lord Cumberbatch issued an ultimatum. Yes. Many elders made loud promises, and then one by one, whoosh. It swept out and turned into streams of light, quickly flying towards the south of the imperial capital, and began to encircle and suppress it. That extremely majestic and terrifying aura caused countless holy sons of the Kamikaze Empire to look up on the mountainside. Their faces changed color, and they didn't understand what was happening. Boom! Holy Lord Cumberbatch stepped out on the top of the mountain. The next moment, the majestic and tall figure had disappeared into the void and disappeared without a trace. When many elders of the Kamikaze Empire, under the leadership of Holy Lord Kongbosiki, encircled and suppressed Jason and others. In the middle of the continent, in a mysterious space, the spiritual master tower is located. A large group of strong men exuding astonishing auras were sitting in the hall with gloomy expressions. Everyone, I think you all know the news. At the top of the hall, the master of the spiritual master tower Atkinson Tower said coldly, now, everyone will follow me on the expedition, from the southern border of the Kamikaze Empire to the Kamikaze Empire. Conduct a carpet search in the hinterland of the Empire. Remember, once you meet Jason and others, send me a message immediately. Jason and others must be killed in the Kamikaze Empire so that they can never return to the Medicine Master Tower. Yes. Spiritual Master Tower, Elder Berkey Kasder and others all agreed with firm expressions. Master Atkinson Tower, this time, I must kill that Jason to honor the spirit of Elder Radamandes in heaven. Especially the Deputy Tower Master Jia Luo, his face was even more ferocious and crazy. If he hadn't failed to kill Jason and the others in the forbidden area of the Seven-Star Sea, Radamandes would not have died, let alone what happened just now from the Kamikaze Empire. Now the news that Lan Yugusan and others were promoted to the 9th level Holy Spirit Master made Jia Luo feel both angry and frightened. Okay, let's go. Master Atkinson Tower said indifferently. After a moment, whoosh. Sniff. Whoosh. Figures exuding a terrifying aura suddenly appeared from a certain area in the middle of the continent, and then rose into the sky one by one, turning into meteors and flying. It flew towards the location of the Kamikaze Empire. At the same time, on the west side of the Kamikaze Empire was the Holy Land of Cairo Empire. A towering figure wearing a golden robe, standing proudly like a demon, stood in the void. Below him, there were figures exuding a terrifying aura, with serious faces and boiling fighting spirit. I think everyone knows what happened. Everyone immediately entered the western border of the Kamikaze Empire and searched in the direction of the Elixir Tower in the middle of the continent. Once they encounter Jason and his party, they must pass on the news as soon as possible. Remember, during this trip, we must show off the majesty of our Cairo Empire. In the void, the tall, majestic figure made a majestic voice, then let's set off, now. Yes. A huge promise sounded, roared in the Holy Land, and immediately, figures exuding a terrifying aura, like migrating locusts, flew up one after another, heading towards the location of the Kamikaze Empire. Because what Jason and others did in the Cairo province of the Kamikaze Empire completely shocked the three major powers, the Kamikaze Empire, the Cairo Empire, and the Spiritual Master Tower, from the north, south, and west sides respectively. Surrounding Jason and others in the Cairo province, the soldiers must completely wipe Jason and others out of the Kamikaze Empire. And when the three major forces were taking action, they were somewhere in an inaccessible mountain range on the north side of Kilo province. Rumble. A series of terrifying golden elements gathered in the sky, boiling, and countless golden spiritual powers continued to rise into the sky, forming terrifying hurricanes of spiritual power, turning into torrents of golden elements, rushing up the sky, forming patches of golden ocean on the sky. The golden ocean continued to surge, forming pieces of gorgeous golden aurora. In the aurora, mysterious laws of golden elements continued to flow, emitting the grand sound of the Great Avenue. Under this terrifying scene, in the mountains below the golden ocean, 7 figures were looking at the young man with long black hair in the middle, with anticipation in their eyes. These 8 people were none other than Jason and others who caused a scene in Quick City, the provincial capital of Kilo province, not long ago. After leaving Kilo province, Jason and others did not fly towards the southern border of the Kamikaze Empire, but entered an inaccessible mountain range in the northern part of Kilo province, and Jason arrived deep in the mountains. The first thing he did was to prepare a 9th-level Holy Spirit potion for his father, Renault. Among Jason's group today, except for Jason and Reno, Wayne and others are all 9th-level low-level Holy Spirit Masters with extraordinary strength. Although Jason is only an 8th-level peak Imperial Spirit Master, his true strength is not weaker than a 9th-level Intermediate Holy Spirit Master. Only Renault, although he is an 8th-level Senior Imperial Spiritual Master, his understanding of the laws of the metal system is extremely amazing. He has understood the level of the 7th-level Golden Sword that cuts through the void. Even when facing a low-level 9th-level Holy Spirit Master, he can also fight twice, but compared with Wayne and others, Renault's strength is too weak. In the battle, he can't be of much help at all, and can only become a burden. Even if he escapes, his speed is too low. It will seriously drag down everyone present. So Jason immediately thought of preparing a 9th-level gold-type holy-level elixir for his father to help him advance to the 9th-level Holy Spirit Master. In fact, when Jason got the 9th-level Holy Elixir Void Gold Dragon Fruit in the Death Maze, he promised Renault that once he advanced to the 8th-level Advanced Emperor Spiritual Master, he was sure to let him advance to the 9th level. Now, Renault has reached the 8th level of Advanced Holy Spirit Master, and it is time for Jason to fulfill his promise. Therefore, after arriving in this inaccessible mountain range, Jason, who had already prepared the materials, immediately prepared it for his father, and that was when the scene that started earlier happened. Heavenly tribulation of the laws of the metal system. At the foot of the mountain, Jason murmured with firm eyes. The next moment, in the eyes of Lan Yugusan and others, he soared into the sky to meet the terrifying golden catastrophe. It is a law of heavenly calamity. The terrifying law calamity, packed with unparalleled pressure, turned into a torrent of spiritual power, and instantly descended on Jason's head. For a moment, the entire depth of the mountain range was transformed into a sea of golden thunder. Endless golden laws fell from the sky, like pieces of golden ocean pouring down from the sky and pouring on Jason. Jason, who had prepared the 9th-level Holy Spiritual Potion for Lan Yugusan and the others when he was on 7-Star Island, was naturally familiar with this 9th-level law calamity. The spiritual power in his body was released to the maximum, and he did not blindly think about it. To survive this terrible disaster, one must wash oneself with the laws, understand the mysteries of the laws, and improve one's attainments in the laws of the metal system. Seeing Jason's easy handling of the law calamity in the forest, Edmes and others couldn't help but sigh. They regarded the law calamity when the 9th level Holy Spirit potion was formed as a method of cultivation. Not only have they never seen Edmes before, but they have never heard of it. What Edmes and the others don't know is that in this world, only a pervert like Jason can use the 9th level law of calamity to temper his body, because Jason's 9th level peak soul has no ability to do so. Afraid of the impact of the heavenly tribulation on the soul, the golden spirit pearl in his body was able to absorb the mysteries in the heavenly tribulation of the law, which formed such a picture. Endless metal spiritual power boiled, and amidst the huge roar, no one knew how long it had passed before the law-heavy catastrophe caused by the preparation of the 9th level metal holy level spiritual potion finally stopped. At this moment, a large number of golden laws washed down from the sky like a torrent, extremely violent, and all entered the bottle of golden Holy Spirit potion on the ground. Mysterious laws were flowing around the outside of the potion bottle. Constantly, the disillusionment gives people a sense of beauty. Facing this astonishing scene, Caswell and Monica, who were not elixir masters, naturally did not feel much, but Lon Yugusan and others, who were 8th level elixir masters, could feel it. The bottle of 9th order holy level spiritual potion that Jason is now preparing is much more powerful than the 9th order holy level spiritual potion that he prepared for Edmes on 7-Star Island. This can be seen from the rules of the metal system in. When Edmes was given the 9th level gold-based holy level elixir prepared with the golden holy fruit, the golden-based law that finally survived the catastrophe of the law fell like a veil, but now he uses the virtual gold dragon fruit for Renault. After the prepared spiritual potion passed through the heavenly tribulation of the law, the golden law continued to wash in like the water of a waterfall. Above the potion bottle, golden dragon aura faintly appeared. Brilliant and dazzling. What they don't know is that when Jason prepared Edma's body, his body was at the 9th level, but now it's at the 9th level, and in terms of materials, the two are also very different. The virtual gold dragon fruit is superior to the golden holy fruit. This is the consequence. Father, you should take this elixir quickly. After the law catastrophe completely dissipated, Jason was about to successfully prepare the elixir, exuding the terrifying golden law aura, and handed it to Renault. Renault looked at Jason and without any hesitation, he swallowed the elixir handed over by Jason in one gulp. In an instant, everyone's eyes were fixed on Renault. Chi-chi. In front of everyone, golden light suddenly appeared on Renault's body. These golden lights became brighter and brighter as time went by. Gradually, a series of amazing auras emerged from Renault's body, gradually bloomed, and about half an hour later, there was a rumble one by one. A terrifying coercion instantly fell from the sky and descended on this world. The golden laws all over the sky were like sky curtains, falling from the sky. The 20 golden spiritual elements in the entire world became violent again at this moment, and went crazy towards Renault's body in the mountains and forests. The terrifying aura dissipated, causing Jason and the others to retreat involuntarily, looking at Renault from a distance as if he had turned into a golden sun. With the help of the 9th order gold-type Holy Spirit elixir prepared by Jason, Renault finally transformed and launched an attack on the 9th order gold-type Holy Spirit Master. Astonishingly, the spiritual power of the metal elements poured into Renault's body like water from the sea pouring from the sky. At this moment, Renault was like a wild beast that had been hungry for countless years, and it was swallowing this energy like a crazy whale. The astonishing 20 elements of the metal spirit show the mysterious laws of the metal system. The rivers of elements formed a splendid Milky Way in the sky, transforming into the extremely beautiful aurora of laws. Finally, after maintaining it for 2 full hours. Boom! An astonishing coercion spread across the mountains and forests, and Renault's whole body slowly rose into the air. Buzz! An invisible coercion descended from the sky and spread directly, covering an area of 1,000 meters, forming a huge spherical light golden cover, which was the unique domain of the 9th level Holy Spirit Master. I have finally advanced to the 9th level of Holy Spirit Master, haha. Feeling the astonishing spiritual power in his body, Renault couldn't help but look up to the sky and roar with pride. In the mountains in the northern part of Kilo province, Renault had a look of ecstasy on his face and let out a hearty roar. The roar was like a thunderbolt suddenly exploding in the clear sky, and the terrifying aura dispersed, causing all the spirit beasts in the mountain range to crawl to the ground in shock, trembling all over. As spiritual beasts that can communicate with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, they are even more sensitive to danger and pressure than humans. They can all feel that the breath that makes this roar is extremely terrifying and powerful, making them live. Not showing any courage to resist. Above the mountains, Renault stood proudly in the void like a golden god of war. After roaring for a while, he slowly landed on the ground, but there was always an unconcealable excitement in his eyes. Jason, I have finally advanced to the 9th level of Holy Spirit Master. He looked at Jason, his eyes filled with all kinds of emotions. It was a kind of excitement, as if a dream had come true, from the deepest part of his heart, surged out. Thinking back on everything that had happened over the years, Renault felt that everything was like a dream, giving him an unbelievable illusion. 26 years ago, as a 6th-level senior spiritual master, Renault married Yulia and had an unborn child. He was at the happiest time in his life. However, the arrival of the Daos family of the Cairo Empire changed everything. Everything has changed. Yulia was ruthlessly brought back to the Cairo Empire, and he was also stripped of his strength and became a useless person. He was expelled from the Todd family and became a sinner of the family. After this disaster, the reason why Renault was able to survive was the result of the bitter struggle between Yulia and the Daos family. In the small town of Kodo, Renault lived a life of poverty. In those late nights, he looked at the east of the mainland and cried alone. Sometimes, as strong as him, he had the idea of death, but because of his son Jason, he still managed to survive. However, all this changed 8 years ago. With the help of Jason, his strength recovered and he broke through to the lower level of the 7th level. Over the years, there have been setbacks, desperate situations, hopes and excitements. Along the way, he bumped, and now he finally became a 9th-level Holy Spirit Master. What a noble identity a 9th-level Holy Spirit Master has. Although Renault showed amazing talents and his strength continued to increase in the past, he had never imagined such a day, but if so, he finally realized it. And all this is because of his son Jason. At this moment, Renault was filled with pride, not for himself, but for Jason, proud and excited that he could have such a son. But the only thing that made Renault feel heavy in his heart at this moment was Yulia. When he was in the jaws of chaos, Jason once said that once a Holy Spirit Master reaches the 9th level, he will have the qualifications to return to the Cairo Empire, so that the Daos family can bow their heads and take back Yulia. The reason why the Daos family collapsed back then, the reason why he and Yulia were separated, was entirely because Renault, who was born in a minor aristocracy in the Kingdom of Orlando, could not catch the eye of the Daos family. However, once Renault became a 9th-level Holy Spirit Master, it would be completely different. But now, everything is completely different. Everything that happened in the mainland genius trial place put the Cairo Empire and the Alchemist Tower on completely opposite sides. There was no room for relaxation between the two, and it also made Renault's desire to recapture Yulia a new layer. New obstacles. In the forest, Jason was also looking at his father. The two looked at each other, but they didn't say anything. Everything was in silence. Jason, now that Uncle Renault has also advanced to the 9th level as a Holy Spirit Master, it's time for us to return to the Spirit Medicine Master Tower, right? Otherwise, I'm afraid the Kamikaze Empire will take some actions after getting the news. Lan Yu Gusen asked. Voice. Now that Renault has also been rescued, and with the help of Jason, he has advanced to the 9th level of the Holy Spirit Master. Now in the Kamikaze Empire, everyone has nothing else to do. Everyone is looking forward to the next action. Towards Jason. After getting along for such a long time, Jason has become the backbone of everyone. No, we are not going back to the alchemist tower. Jason's words caught everyone's expectations. If you don't return to the spiritual medicine master tower, what about us? Lan Yugusan and others looked at Jason in surprise. According to my estimation, after the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire gets the news of what happened in Kilo province, it will definitely thunder is furious and is chasing us. If we continue to stay in the Kamikaze Empire, other people in the Kamikaze Empire will have nothing to fear with our strength, but the Holy Lord Cumberbatch of the Kamikaze Empire is a 9th level senior Holy Spirit Master. Even if the 8 of us join forces, we may not be able to withstand his attack. After hearing Lan Yugusan's words, everyone nodded. The major forces, as the top geniuses of the major forces, did not feel careless at all because they were promoted to the 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Masters, because they all understood the gap between the 9th level high-level Holy Spirit Masters and them. Regardless of the fact that among the 8 of them, Jason, Lan Yugusan, Cassius and Wayne are all existences comparable to 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Masters, the remaining Renault, Caswell, Monica, although Edmets is not as strong as Jason and the others, he is still stronger than ordinary 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Masters. He can be almost as good as ordinary 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Masters, but if he really meets someone like Holy Lord Cumberbatch, the top experts in the mainland, the 9th level high-level Holy Spirit Masters, even if 8 of them join forces, they are hardly a match. It is precisely because the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire will be furious and mobilized after receiving the news, that is why we cannot return to the Medicine Master Tower. Jason's eyes burned. If I guessed correctly, we are in the Kilo province. What we have done has now spread to the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire. With such a major event happening, the Kamikaze Empire will never give up. I am afraid that the entire empire has now mobilized the power of the entire empire to look for us and then gather together to annihilate us. However, everyone, you must know that in addition to killing the Elder Salskjaer of the Kamikaze Empire, we also killed the Elder Radamandes of the Spiritual Master Tower. I am afraid that the Spiritual Master Tower, we should have received the news at this moment. They are at the southern border of the Kamikaze Empire, waiting for us to fall into the trap. There is absolutely no way the other party will let us return to the elixir tower smoothly. Jason said indifferently. Then let's take over. After hearing Jason's words, everyone's expressions looked a little serious for a moment. They all knew that what Jason said was entirely possible. Let's take over. And after seeing the nervous and serious expressions of everyone, Jason suddenly laughed. What we have to do next is very simple. We first inquire about the news. If the Kamikaze Empire really launches a large-scale attack, if they encircle and suppress us, we will teach them a lesson they will never forget. Jason's eyes were burning, like a tiger or wolf staring at its prey. Teach them a lesson they will never forget. In the mountain forest, Lan Yugusan and others couldn't help but look at each other, their eyes lit up one by one. A moment later, the City Lord's palace in Kike City, Kilo province. The City Lord's mansion, which had been almost half destroyed, was busy with people coming and going, and a large number of workers were carrying the messy rubble. In a room in the deepest part of the City Lord's palace, the City Lord of Kike City was looking at the people in front of him with a horrified face. His whole body was trembling, and he could hardly believe his eyes. Guys, don't kill me. Jean has already told you what I know. Just spare my life. The Lord of Kike City had fear in his eyes, his face was pale, and his forehead was covered with sweat. He never thought that those murderous figures would actually return to Kike City after leaving for a long time. He thought that Jason and others had killed Elder Radamandes and destroyed Dekali. Seeing the family scene, he couldn't help but tremble in his heart. Don't kill you? Cassius grinned at him and then said, Pong. An invisible force spread out from Cassius' body, and the Lord of Kike City exploded instantly, and his whole person turned into blue. Pink, as if it had never existed. Sure enough, the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire has now come out in force. According to what the City Lord said before, except for some disciples, There are no other strong people left in the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire. And we can't leave from now. The southern part of the empire has returned to the Medicine Master Tower. In that case, let's take this opportunity to visit the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire. Jason said indifferently. Yes, the Kamikaze Empire dares to encircle and suppress us. We will not stop doing it and go to his holy land to cause chaos. Cassinus also said excitedly. Yes, go to the holy land of the Kamikaze Empire. I really want to know that Holy Lord Cumberbatch of the Kamikaze Empire came here with all the trouble to encircle us, but in the end he found nothing. Then he learned that we actually killed him. What kind of expression will he have after he returns home? Wayne also sneered. Everyone looked at each other with excitement in their eyes. Let's go. A low voice sounded, and the next moment, Jason and others had disappeared into the room. 2 days after Jason and others left Kike City, the southern border of the Kamikaze Empire was reached. A figure with an astonishing aura exuding an astonishing aura was looking at the information he received from his summons in shock. Jason and others turned out to be Holy Spirit Masters who have advanced to the 9th level. They killed Elder Radamandes of the Spirit Master Tower in Magic City and Elder Salskjaer of the Kamikaze Empire. Now, the Kamikaze Empire, the 3 major forces, the Spiritual Master Tower and the Cairo Empire, are all encircling and suppressing them in the Kamikaze Empire. The old man felt the news in the summons, and his face was uncertain. No, we must not let Jason and the others come out. The siege has only been going on for 2 days now, and there is no news that they have been found. I must find them before they are surrounded by the 3 major forces of the Spiritual Master Tower. The old man murmured, and the next moment, the figure had disappeared into the void. 3 days later, outside the imperial capital of the Kamikaze Empire. In the void, 8 figures exuding a terrifying aura looked at the majestic and spectacular Kamikaze Empire capital in the distance, their eyes filled with fighting intent. Is this the imperial capital of the Kamikaze Empire? Then the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire should be located here. The leading black-haired young man said indifferently, his gray robes fluttering in the wind, as if he was Jason and his group.